Good evening. My name is Jerry Ann Hopkins, and I am a 1973 graduate of Sumner High School. With me this evening, I have some of the basketball players from the undefeated team of 1969 in basketball, and I have a stand-in, a beautiful sister of Leonard Gray. Leonard is the only member of the award-winning team that is no longer with us, but he has a beautiful sister who can tell his story well. And so, with that, we will be chatting for the next hour and 15 minutes or so. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will read them and try to get to them. The other part is we would like to thank two people, Dignified TV, Kamisha Tyner, because this is her television station and she allows us to air on. And then secondly, I'd like to thank Ronald Hopkins for being our engineer this evening. And so remember the rules, and Paul just joined us. So I just need for you, starting at the top, to give your name and whatever you want to say about yourself in a minute's time. And I'm going to start. I said I wasn't calling names, but I'm going to start with you, Mr. Rollins.
Okay, thank you for that. My,
And
my name is Brian Rollins. I'm a 1970 graduate of Sumner High School, but I played uh, occasionally on the 1969 championship team where we went undefeated. And I'm just delighted to be a part of this discussion and really appreciative of the fact that uh, enough folks thought enough of what we accomplished to pull us all back together again. I left Kansas City in 1970 right after school and went to school at the University of Iowa, left there and went to work in the energy industry in Houston, Texas, and moved around quite a bit and retired from Shell Oil Company in 2007. So I'm here in Houston now with my wife, and we have 3 kids and 5 grandkids, and we're active in a lot of community things. Uh, Specifically, very active with our church, Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. And one thing I'd like to mention, the founding pastor of Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church is William Alexander Lawson. He is a graduate of Sumner High School. So we are able to stay connected with Sumnerites right here in Houston. So I'll stop right there and let someone else have the floor.
All right. I said I wasn't calling names, but I guess, Mr. Carruthers, it's your turn.
yes. My name is Rufus Carruthers. I'm a 1969 graduate of the class of Sumner High School. I was a starting point guard on the basketball team in 1969. When I graduated, Nate Smith and I went to Keokuk Junior College in Keokuk, Iowa. I like telling the story. It got rough a couple of times there, and uh, Nate got on the bus and headed back to Kansas City, and I had to get the coach's car to go get him and bring him back. But we had a good time. I spent a year there at Keokuk, and then I signed a contract with the Kansas City Royals to go to the first Kansas City Royals Academy in Sarasota, Florida. My roommate there was Frank White. You know, if you guys know Frank, Frank was from
Yeah.
Kansas City, Missouri, and we've been playing baseball against each other for some time. Uh, when the press made a big deal out of both of us signing and going, 2 Kansas City boys, all of that kind of good stuff. But it didn't pan out for me with the Royals, but it did for Frank. Hall of Famer. When I left the Royals, I went to school in the College of the Ozarks as a result of one of our coaches there, Mr. Benson, was a graduate from the College of the Ozarks. So he worked it out. And, if you guys are familiar with, but in 1974, if you signed a pro contract, you could not go back to college and participate in collegiate sports. So I graduated in 1974, and I started working for the federal government. I worked for the U.S. Forest Service for about 27 years and started work for the National Weather Service in Washington, D.C., and I wound up working for the Department of Army in Atlanta. And I wound up here. Now I'm currently serving as the director for their diversity and inclusion program for Installation Management Command, and we manage military installations worldwide. I'm glad to say that I will be retiring in 29 days, July the 2nd. After 48 years, I figure it's time for me to enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Yeah.
Uh, and with that, I'll stop there.
All right.
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon, late afternoon, evening for some, to Dignified TV viewers and my brother's teammates who are online with us. My name's Lynn Gray. I am one of four sisters and one of six siblings of our beloved brother Leonard, who has been fondly nicknamed Hughie. Um, he graduated in the class of 1969 with these phenomenal young men, played with them on the team. Love these guys as he would a family member. I've heard many stories over the years. Some I'll tell, some I will not.
We thank you.
Leonard,
Yeah, thanks.
I'll email you later with the cost of that. Um, they Leonard initially attended the University of Kansas in Lawrence under the coach of Ted Owens after graduating from Sumner High School, and later transferred to Long Beach State, Long Beach, California, where he was coached by Tark the Shark, Jerry Tarkanian, as well as Lute Olson. Um, before going on to play, he was drafted in the second round by Seattle Supersonics. Bill Russell was the coach. He later played with what is now the Washington Wizards, but they at that time they were the Washington Bullets. And as well, he played abroad in the United Kingdom. Leonard got his wings June 13th, 2006. He has two wonderful sons. I have two great nephews, and he has three grandsons.
All right. Mr. Graham.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Paul Graham, affectionately known as Coon. That's what most people call me. And I was a starting. I don't know what I was, point guard, guard, whatever I was, but I was a starter on the 1969 undefeated state champion basketball team. I also was a member of the state track team that won state. And uh, and when we graduated in 1969, I went to Butler County Junior College in El Dorado, Kansas, which is about right outside of Wichita. Stayed there 2 years, then I went to North Texas State on a track scholarship. Ran track at North Texas and got my degree and graduated in 1974. I had no idea and no inclination to go in to be a high school teacher and a basketball coach. No way. I just knew I had a degree and I wanted a job, but some kind of way I was convinced to go into that profession. And I started teaching and coaching uh, high school basketball in 1974 at one of the largest high schools in Dallas Independent School District at Kimball High School. And I stayed there 8 years. And then Dave Bliss got the job at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and he hired me as an assistant basketball coach. And we had a big center named John Konkak, and we played against Phi Slama Jama, Drexler, and Olajuwon, and played against Georgetown in the NCAA tournament and lost to them by 1 point. And so went on there, and then we left there, and I went to the University of New Mexico with Dave, and we had another center named Luke Longley and coached him. And Luke went on and played with the Chicago Bulls. I stayed at the University of New Mexico 2 years. And then the next 9 years, I worked for a guy named Eddie Sutton at Oklahoma State. And we went to the Final Four in 1995. And we had another big center named Bryant Big Country Reeves. And during that stretch in there, when we went to the Final Four, we played against some of the premier basketball players that ever played. After that, I became a Division I head basketball coach in the Pac-10 conference at Washington State University. And we're in the same. If you don't know where Washington State is, it's at the end of the world. But it's in the same conference with UCLA.
And you just froze.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm giving him a chance to unfreeze. But in the meantime, Go ahead, Mr. Jackson. We'll come back to.
Okay, yeah. If the unfreezes, I'll pause myself.
Okay.
Um, I'm Lee Felt. I'm proud to be a member of the 1969 team. Um, I, you know, to let you know how far back we go, uh, I don't know if you can see this guy.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did in eighth grade. In a rebound. It's just something.
All right.
And, and it's against Ronnie Russell, too, in the West. Uh, so I guess that demonstrates how far back,
Yeah.
we go. That's from eighth grade in junior high school at Northeast. Um, I was vice president of the '69 class. Uh, that's another honor uh, that I cherish. Um, I went to junior college in Los Angeles, and I finished at a teacher's college in Minnesota with a bachelor's degree. And like Kuhn said, he never knew he would end up in the classroom and then coaching. Uh, uh, Once I got my master's degree, I had no idea I would end up as a science teacher for Denver Public Schools. By the way, I think I'm on here with a bunch of Texans. Um, I don't know where
You
Carl's
are.
from, but I'm the only one here from Colorado. It seems like I need to move down here with you guys. Um, um, I have been living in Colorado since the late '70s, and it's pretty nice here. I make some good people. I'm still involved with my church. I went to, in fact, it's still my home church in Fifth and Quindaro. If you guys know what Faith Lutheran is,
Right.
Faith Lutheran
Right.
Church, 530 Quindaro. Um,
Right.
that's where I was reared, and I still go visit when I come back home. Um, Not much more to say. Just proud to be a member of the team, and I appreciate Jerry you taking the time to have a conversation with me.
Well, thank you, Liefeld. I appreciate that. Okay. I think Mr. Graham has solved his dilemma. So we're going to go back to you, and you're moving.
Yeah, I am moving. You
So
said, where did I leave off?
And
you were
Washington at
in
the end of the
Washington.
world.
You were in
Washington
Pac.
State, end of the
Yes, you
world.
were in Washington. I was
Yeah,
listening.
yeah. Washington State in the Pac-10 conference with Arizona, UCLA, Cal Berkeley, where Lynn's son went to school instead of coming play for me at Washington State. I won't hold that against him. I might have kept my job if he'd have came and played for me, but that's okay. And so when I got let go there, then I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and then I went to Georgia State University in Atlanta, and then I came back to Dallas, where my wife is from, and I went to Skyline High School, and I was at Skyline High School the last 10 years, and I retired a year ago June. And took Skyline to his first state championship. If you don't know what Skyline High School is in Dallas, Larry Johnson, who played in the NBA, went to Skyline High School. And also one of my players who played for me at Skyline went to University of Kansas and played for Bill Self. His name was Marcus Garrett, and Bill Self and I were assistants together for 3 years at Oklahoma State. And I've been married to the same woman for 43 years, and I have two kids: a 41-year-old son who played for me at Washington State, and my daughter, who also Brittany was a Division I player. And so now I play golf every day, and that's about it. But playing on this basketball team with these guys uh, was a phenomenal experience in my life.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Graham. And so I'm thinking that Mr. Barry would be next. Hi, Carl. Your turn.
Hi, I'm Carl Berry, and I was a proud member of the '69 championship team. I was a junior at the time. The starters used to beat me up every day for fun. But
That's
I
not
have
true.
to say that being on that team did give us a heightened sense of importance and actually entitlement to the point where we won the Dodge City tournament the following year as seniors, and we also took third place in the state as seniors, and we were playing over our head to get there. Uh, and that was mainly because the bar had been raised so high and it was contagious. We expected to win. It didn't make a difference that the tallest man on the team was me at 6'3". It didn't make a difference that I was facing one of the most sought after guys in Wichita when we played the Dodge City Championship. He was 6'9", but I'd been shooting over hugely for 2 years. So, that didn't mean much. He kept thinking he was going to block my shot, and all he kept seeing was a bunch of nets. I,
Carl
uh,
Berry.
I went on to be a mid-level manager with the telephone company. I was blessed to own my own furniture store for 18 years. I am now the CEO of a nonprofit that is expanded into 48 states in the United States, and I'm also an elder in a multicultural church. Now, in case y'all don't know what that means, is I'm one of the few black boys around a bunch of white boys. And they got upset when I told them I thought Jesus was black, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I'm glad that
anyway, I feel a part of the Sumner heritage, and certainly that's a basketball heritage, but it's a heritage that actually uh, spreads the height and the breadth of all sorts of greatness. Academics. Uh, I remember we always won the science fair. Let's talk about music. We were going to Paris and doing stuff. I couldn't even spell Paris, but we got to do those kind of things. And we had leaders and educators that the disadvantage that they faced in not being able to go elsewhere and teach became our advantage because they instilled in us a sense of pride, a sense of belonging, and we didn't find it cute to not try to achieve. We found it a requirement, and I owe that to everybody, especially you guys here on this deal, because in some skills, and I know Kuhn ran into it at Highline, in some school systems, the kids don't bond and they don't
Mm,
support one another outside of their little circles and cliques. The juniors don't affiliate with the seniors, but
that's not
I
true.
already told the story about when I was a sophomore and I had a 32-point game. I got an attaboy from a guy named Rudy Carruthers. That carried me from then on. I became a basketball player. I didn't even think I was a basketball player till Rudy gave me a congratulations. So I am just happy to be here. Happy to see my friends and be with my friends on the call. I drove down Wednesday, had to turn around and drive back on
Yeah.
Friday, but I got to go and visit Kansas City, and I don't do that all the time. That's about all I got. Thank you, Jerry.
you're welcome, Carl. You brought up so much that I hope we can just tip the iceberg in further conversation. You talked about, first of all, we graduated from Sumner High School. Sumner High School in itself is a novelty. It's something that the story just grows and grows and grows. And right now, we're talking about a basketball team, but as you said, there were so many facets. There was music, there were different sports, there was education, there were uh, math and science winners. We just, and we had the most outstanding teachers. They were handpicked.
There were
Most
also there were
basketball,
also chess club winners. At,
and they were,
yeah, we
and
had chess club winners too.
and so, oh, chess winners, yeah.
Yeah,
And so, and you are so right, because I learned how to play chess with James Lindsay. So you are so very right.
yeah. Oh,
Um, and I beat him when he taught me, and that was the only time I beat anybody. But okay, so he let me win. Um, I just, we have such rich heritage, and we have had this opportunity to talk before, but we wanted to just do a little bit more delving into your story as the basketball team. Um, as soon as we finish filming the documentary, which will come after this, um, the first question was, well, you know what? You didn't talk about the basketball game, the actual basketball game. And I said, oops. So in my mind, there actually are two basketball games that any of you all can take lead on. Um, I want to say and give Zach Townsend, who's not with us this evening, I did get to talk to him again earlier this evening, and he said to me, you know, we were just kids. We were 16, 17, and 18-year olds. And we really didn't know what we had done, what impact it had, and what it really meant until we looked back and looked at where we are. Now we have a pretty good idea. Hey, we were awesome, but as I asked this first question that's long, as 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, you're at the last game of the regular season. You haven't gone to state yet, but you're at that last game. You all have already told me that you didn't have the word lose in your vocabulary. You all were going to win regardless. Tell me what that last game was like. With all that, you're 16, 17, 18, you don't know the word lose, you're talented, you've been playing together forever. What does the last game look like of the regular season?
Yeah, I'll just kind of jump in there and just kind of add on to what Zach said. During that time, we were just enjoying playing basketball. It was all about winning for us. That's what our focus was. You know, I, I don't think we realized what we were doing at that time, and Zach was spot right on. It wasn't until after we left, and in some instances, until we became adults there, and more importantly, after uh, Sumner High School itself was switched over to a magnet school there, Sumner Academy. And then folks began to talk about not just the basketball team, but began to focus in on Sumner High School and the graduates that came through there and what it meant to the community. And then that's when we began to focus in on, what was actually going on around us. Things like changing school zones, having some of the players have to stay with, a parent that stays within a particular district in order to go to school there. You know, uh, it was a movement at that time in the community there. It just blew my mind when we went down to uh, uh, different Shawnee missions or went down to Dodge City and to Wichita. I mean, it was like a following, a entourage of folks that were coming from the community there. And for us, those were the guys, those were the fellows, coming to see us play. But it was a movement.
Yeah.
It's a movement, and I'm glad to see that they're beginning to recognize those accomplishments there, not only for the basketball team, but for Sumner High School in
Sumner High
general.
School.
Right. Hey, I want to tag on to that because, like comments become cliches sometimes because people can't think of anything else, but sometimes because they're true.
Right, right.
And what I'm about to say is we stood on the shoulders of those who came before us. And there was a culture and a tradition at Sumner High School, in basketball for sure, but beyond basketball. But let's talk about basketball for a minute, of winning, of being the focal point of community interest. I mean, we would load that gym up every weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
And, we we learned from those that we watched play before us.
Right.
Yeah.
And what inspired us was the success that we saw them have and the effort that we saw them put into the game, and the sense of community that we saw them bring, for our parents and our families and our friends. And I want to tell a quick story about something that really inspired me. We've talked about Richard Dumas before. He was long before us. I think he finished in 62.
Right.
But in any event, my sister finished in 62, and we lived right behind Sumner High School. And one day, Rufus walked my sister. I mean, not Rufus. You're not that old, buddy. Richard Dumas walked my sister home from school and came into the house and leaned against the wall in my living room. And, I just kind of peeked around the corner and said, man, that's Richard X-Ray Dumas. When he left, I went and stood on the wall and rubbed up and down. I said, I want some of what he's got.
I'll get some of this.
And I mean, really, that was the way I looked up to the guys and he's not the only one. I mean, we could talk, everybody has a list, Donald Moore, Sparks, Dwight Henderson. I mean, the list just goes on. But we learned so much just by watching what they did and observing the way that the community came together around them, that I think it helped to propel us forward when we got the opportunity to play. And in terms of the last game, finally talking about your question, what I remember the most, Jerry, is just the sense of joy. I don't remember a lot about the game.
Yeah, right,
But the
right,
sense of
right.
joy
Yeah.
that I felt as an individual, as a team member, and what I observed in that stadium for the fans that had followed us to Wichita. It was incredible. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
The other thing, Jerry, that Brian is alluding to is that not only did it was a tradition, is that the people that went before us, they encouraged us.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they saw something in us that we didn't know we had, and they would tell us that on a daily basis on the school grounds, uh, down on Fifth Street, down on Third Street. It didn't make it. They would tell you and let you know. Boy, they told us when we was up in Northeast, you guys are gonna be pretty good. You guys are gonna be really good. And yeah, I would look at those guys like, man, what are you talking about? But they encouraged us and they demanded, that we learn how to be what I call competitive. There's a difference in playing hard, and it's a difference in competing. They taught you how to compete. And Lynn's older brother, Kenny, was one of the
Oh,
ring leaders.
oh.
Kenny, boy, he was one of the ring leaders.
Didn't play at all.
Hey man, Kenny, I mean, all those dudes, man, if you didn't do it right, they would let you know in a physical manner that, hey man, if you're gonna play for Sumner, this is how it's gonna be. You can't be soft and put on them white uniforms. You can't be soft and come out here if you're gonna play like that. But it was the encouragement. And if you were doing something that you shouldn't be doing, Jerry, they would let you know that too. But they really encouraged us. And like Carl alluded to and Brian said, it was a tradition like a track. It was a baton that was handed down
I was
from
thinking
the guys that went before us.
I was just thinking that baton had to be passed on and continued to pass on because last week we were in happy hour, and so the 70s came up, and so that baton even made they had ex, astounding track teams and basketball teams and football teams. It went through 278. and of course I'm not gonna call any names because then I'll start getting in trouble with my memory. But my husband talks about going to state with Sumner. He went to Schlegel, and Sumner brings six guys, and they win the state track meet with those six guys.
Right. That's right.
And
That's right.
and so that was in 77, 78. So we still had the prowess that
Right.
Sumner had, that went through the years. So that baton continued to pass along, and our community continued to support us
Yeah.
until they couldn't support us. And I do want to say they fought hard to keep Northeast open. They fought even harder to keep Sumner open. It was just the powers that were didn't allow it. And I never want to go down to the word. We could talk negative all day long, but we're talking about the good of Sumner, and you all are certainly part of that good. I see that we've been joined by my engineer. What is it that you would like to say, Mr. Hopkins?
It was painful playing against Sumner. Period. I don't care if it was football, basketball, track. Honestly, I couldn't stand you guys. I was jealous, but I couldn't stand you guys. Now I'm going backstage.
All right. Thank you for sharing. We're glad to know that we had that kind of impact on you. Uh, so you all talked about uh, before and now the neighborhood games that you really don't see much except for on TV. But the neighborhood games were. Can you kind of tell me about the neighborhood? See, that question wasn't on there; it just came. So the neighborhood games that you all played. Talk about that in the levels of what you saw and who you saw, what years they were, and the
Well, that,
impact.
that that was the foundation. I mean,
Okay.
that was the building block there. I mean, everything that we all and I feel safe in saying this, everything that we all learned, we learned from the playground
Yeah.
there. I mean, it was one of those things where it was like an obsession. Like musicians there who have been gifted, they just say that, they've got all of these tunes going through their head and they just got to get it out. Well, that's how it was for us. I mean, whether it was raining, snowing,
It
we
didn't make
were
a
on the
difference.
court, and that's where it all began for us. Some of those games there, like my fellow teammates said, some of the guys that came before us there, hell, it was just an honor to be on the court
Right.
to play with them.
Right.
Not only to watch and observe. Sometimes I just go set up there knowing that sometimes we may not even get into the game there because the level of play at that time was so high. Those guys that were playing there, but just watching them and learning from them was phenomenal, phenomenal.
You know what happened on the playground is, first of all, you had to earn the right, Jerry, to play. I mean, you just couldn't walk up there and say, "Hey, man," you had to earn the respect of the players out there. You had to earn that. And when you got out there, if you weren't doing what it was to take to win, they would let you know that
Yeah.
because you might not play again.
Right.
In
Right.
the
That's right.
playground, there were more spectators, Jerry, on the playground just to come down there to watch the games.
Yeah.
Dunbar School Ground, they would park cars all up and down 6th Street, all on the playground, just to watch people play. I mean, Lucius Allen played down there. Lucius came down. He bought Kareem down there. JoJo White from Kansas came down there. The Kansas City Chiefs guys would come over there to play on Dunbar School Ground. The players from over in Missouri, when Warren Armstrong or Warren Jabali or Herman Sykes and Ross and all these guys would come over to Dunbar School Ground to play. We didn't have what they have nowadays. These kids got all these summer league tournaments and they go to Vegas and California. We played on the playground, but we also had a job. You had to go to work. As soon as you got off work, you came to the playground.
That's
If
right.
you had a great reputation like Hughie or J.B. Hill or Dumas or Ernie Moore or Johnny Keefe or Willie Dixon, and the list goes on and on and on, well then you had a chance to play. if you were trying to make it, you had to prove yourself.
Right.
Amos McClooney and Robert Nance and Robert White and I mean the list, Kenneth Cloud and Abernathy and Alvin Fant and
Will
I mean
Carroll.
the list goes on and on and on. And you had to go out there and you had to prove yourself every day, every possession, every time. And once you know you've made it is when somebody picks you to play, Jerry.
Right.
When you walk on the playground, they say, "Oh, here comes Dumas, man. Here comes JB Hill. Here comes Memphis. Here comes Amos McClone. Here comes Curtis Long. Here comes Monty Owens. Here comes Lee James. Here comes Earl Robinson. Here
Right,
comes Kenny
right,
Harris.
right.
Here comes Donald Moore. No, the list. Here comes Ernie Moore. Ernie Moore came down at one time and bought some shoes that were too small for him. And Johnny Battles. I mean, Bobby Douglas. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And there were guys, Jerry, that down there could play like Fudd and all those guys, and Oogie and all those guys that didn't
Right,
even play for Sumner.
right,
They could
right.
they didn't even make the team.
Right.
And Johnny Battles was a manager
Oh yeah, yeah.
and you couldn't even guard. Nobody could even guard him. So playing on that playground was a tradition, and like Rudy said, it was the foundation, and it was something that we did, Jerry, every day,
Yeah.
every day.
And you bring up such a good point that 2 weeks ago we went to the grocery store to buy groceries that we didn't need so that my grandson could package them up so that his team could raise money to go to Omaha.
Right,
And
right.
and
Play on
that's how they're
yeah,
doing it now. He
yeah.
doesn't have any idea. He plays baseball, but he has no idea of what you're talking about. The playground. That playground was really the forefront to all of you all's successful stories because they're more. They're just not 1969. 1969 just happened to be the undefeated team. If
Yes.
I haven't
Yeah.
learned anything else in my however old I am years, I know to say 1969 undefeated, and then I say 20 question mark. But the most important number in that equation is what? What's
Zero.
the
Undefeated.
Zero.
Zero.
undefeated? That's
Zero.
zero. That's zero.
Undefeated.
Nobody. So what close games did you have? Can you tell me? Because I think wasn't the final game pretty close
It went
and some
overtime.
overtimes?
That Shawnee Mission South game, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lee. Tell them about it.
Come on, Lee.
Uh, I don't remember a lot about it except um, it was not supposed to go down to overtime. I know that, and I think it was at Memorial Hall, last game of the season. I think you guys were thinking we're heading on to state, and Shawnee Mission is going to be just another victim, and it was kind of a nail biter. It brought reflections of that '62 team. Um, Almost in the same position that one of their last games of the season and ended up not going to state because of that. So, but we did manage to, you guys did manage to avoid the loss in that one.
So how many overtimes?
I think it was two.
I
I'm
thought I heard two. And do you
not
think
sure.
you were playing? Were
You guys
the
help me out. I'm not sure. I think it was two.
Well, I remember the last game, Rudy. You guys. The last game I remember at Memorial Hall.
Right.
Is late in the game. I want to say what about like 2 minutes and something
That's
on the game.
right.
We were down.
Right.
We were down
7
7 points,
points. Right.
and we won the game by 7. We were. We were down 7, and then down in Wichita when we was playing Turner, we might have went overtime in that game.
Yeah.
And that's the game. I didn't know this at the time. That's what Zach said that Zach got fouled on a shot,
Right.
and he said that Hughie came to him and told him to miss the next free throw. He made one free throw or something, and he missed it. And Hughie got the rebound. It was a 5-point play
Right.
that we got. And I got the article, and you guys saying that when I gave it to you, it says unusual 5-point play propels Spartan, something like that. So, but I didn't know. I never knew that Hughie told Zach to miss it. Zach told me, and he missed it, and it worked out perfectly. Uh, but I can't remember, too many real. Rudy, you correct me, Brian and Carl Lee, but too many real close games where it was like, uh, I don't remember. All I know is we didn't lose none.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what I remember about a lot of it too is that, see, you have to understand the dynamics of that team. Man, we used to fuss and cuss there, because everybody, we all had egos, okay? We all had egos.
Absolutely.
But
Okay.
at the end of the day, when we knew that it was crunch time there, egos put aside. We did
Yeah.
what we had to do to win the game. Now, as a result of that, sometimes those the egos that we had was a result of some of the close games that we had. But then when it came to realization that, hey, look, okay, it's time to go to business. Let's cut all that mess out. Okay, let's play our game. And it was all centered around, okay,
Huge.
get
The
the
big
ball in
fella.
the middle, let the big man do his thing. Okay,
Let the
time to go
big
to work.
dog eat.
Look,
Yeah.
that's time to go to work. And we all knew that, and that was the beauty of that too. Let me tell you, my boy,
And Lynn, you know your brother. He was one of the most unselfish guys to be
yeah,
so big. I remember talking to Lute Olson and talk about Hughie, and they was always building him up to be this big, mean,
yeah, right, right,
enforcer type guy. He wasn't. He was nothing like that.
yeah,
You know,
right.
if we didn't throw him the ball, he wouldn't say nothing. And then you throw it to him, he tell you to shoot it. That was
Yeah.
Hughie.
He was unselfish and kind with you guys, but at the same time,
But not you, huh, Lee?
no, I cannot say. Nobody in my family can say that. Leonard was a protector of you guys on the court.
Yeah,
Any team he's ever played on,
yeah,
he was a protector in the family.
yeah,
Um, my
yeah.
son recently told me he's coaching his son now, my grandson, and he said he met a guy that played at University of Pacific while Leonard was at Long Beach. And he said, we just talking basketball, and he told me he said, Mom, he said he played about the same time Uncle Leonard did. He said, so I said, well, you might know my uncle. His name's Leonard Gray, played for Long Beach State. He said, and the guy just looked like he was exhausted all over again. He said, yeah. He said, I had to play him twice a year. We were in the same conference. He said, he was the nicest guy before the game. He came, he shook my hand, he almost broke it. And he smiled, big old guy with dimples, and he's smiling,
Right.
shaking my hand. He said, and he said, well, we're getting ready to get out here and get with it. He said, but when all these pleasantries over with, I'm getting ready to get after you, right?
Yeah.
And then he said, yeah, he proceeded to each time. So yeah, he was a protector on the court for sure, and always spoke of you guys as family and all of the things you talked about as a family member. And I'm sure all of your family members can probably say the same thing. But I had a bird's eye view to see it from, as you said, with my older brother Kenny, even being back as far as preschool. I remember them just coming home from school, change clothes, get something to eat, do whatever they had to do, and then leave the house with that basketball.
Right,
Plenty
right,
of times we saw
See,
Leonard leave with the basketball. My mom preparing meals based on who had a game that day, and
right.
and then I also had an opportunity, as Paul was talking about the coaching at the college level. I had an opportunity to see my brother Kenny get recruited for football, all the way down to my youngest daughters in 2005. So I've seen NCAA recruiting. You may not remember this, but when KU recruited Leonard, they landed a helicopter on the football field to pick him up. So I got to see coaches. We had code words we had to use at our house because they didn't have a limit on the number of phone calls or the number of
Right.
visits. And people were just showing up, and Leonard's going out the back door, and I got to send the coach a different direction. Well, he's probably playing out at Quindaro today, knowing full well Leonard was heading, up to Dunbar, up to the school to play. So it was the recruiting side of it. But like I said, with watching all of that over the years and knowing Leonard took it so serious, and I remember the state championship, And my father and my mother encouraging, and my mother always telling him, "Hey, you better be hydrated. Quit drinking all this soda and get some water in you. You're gonna be running up and down that court. Listen to what I'm telling you." But all of those things that took place at home, and I'm sure all of your families could attest to the same kind of situations. And watching it, like I said, uh, with a bird's eye view, and knowing how much it meant to the entire team.
See, you guys grew up on the north end, but he was around 10th and Quindaro, is where he learned to be tough because he was so big. I'm not going to mention any names, who hung out at 10th and Quindaro, but they picked on him a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened one year, but he wasn't going to take no more being picked on because he's the biggest guy down there. So 10th and Quindaro, it was called Browns, I think. We went down and had malts and played pinball and stuff like that. I think that helped him to tough PG up.
Yeah.
I do have a Kenny Harris story. I was down on Dunbar one time and some big guys were playing. I think I was in sixth grade. And I called the next sideline and they kind of laughed at me and told me to go down to the other end. And Kenny said, no, this dude he called next and he's going to be playing next.
Right. Yeah.
That's all. And that was it. I played.
Yeah. When Kenny spoke, people listened. No doubt about that.
Yeah. And he thought fair was fair, and he saw I was a young kid. I didn't know what I was doing, but he stood up for you.
Yeah.
So two great brothers you got there, man.
Okay, so let me just put in a word, and you all can. We don't necessarily have to talk about Mr. Fluke, but the word coach, because I also think that the coaches played a part in your success.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I'm just going to say that word, coach. Go for it.
Yeah, and again, I'll go back up. It's like I said earlier, it all started on the playground. You can go back in terms of, in my opinion, the coach that made a big impact on us initially is when we first at Northeast began to play and understand organized basketball, and began to play as a team and understand that we all had roles to play, and that was Coach John Henson. And I'll tell you today, Coach Graham, every time I see him on the sidelines there, I think of Coach Henson, because I know that I see Coach Henson in him when he's communicating with his boys there. I just have flashbacks about it. But Coach Henson was an impact, and then there was the Ellison brothers, without question there, had a major impact, and we all admired those guys because they both played the game, they were players. And then, we had some coaches there at Northeast there. I mean, at Sumner, not necessarily basketball coach. You just said coach. There was Coach Pittman there.
Yeah.
And then there was football coaches there that had some impact in terms of the character and instilled in us our work ethics and the whole deal about winning. And I'll stop there and let someone else talk.
Hey, let me say this about coaching. Good coaches got good players. Let's be fair. Let's be real. You got to have good players. And Coach Fluke had good players. And the coach Thomas Roan had good players.
Yeah.
So to be a good coach, it helps the fact that you got good players. Everybody talks about Phil Jackson, but if I'm coaching Michael Jordan, Kobe, and Shaq, that triangle offense looks good. But when we went to the Final Four at Oklahoma State, we had Big Country. The next year, we didn't go to the Final Four because we didn't have Big Country. So you got to have good players, but then you got to be disciplined. You got to be organized, but you got to have a good relationship with your players, because as Rudy said a few minutes ago, everybody has a role to play. It's only one star. There's only one Michael Jordan. It's only one LeBron. It's only one Kobe. It's only one. And we had Hughie.
Yeah.
He was the backbone. He was the one who buttered the bread.
Yeah.
Hughie. All of us had other things that we could do. Rudy could do some things for the team that I couldn't do. Zach could do some things that Rudy couldn't do. You know, Brian and Carl or whoever, they could do. Everybody has a gift. The problem is the coach has to find a way to unwrap the gift, to use the gift that you got so the group can be successful.
Right.
But now, I've never seen a donkey win the Kentucky Derby yet.
Yeah.
So you better have some Sagittarius and some thoroughbreds out there that will help you get from point A to point B. And
Yeah.
watching
Hey,
the NBA
I,
game last night, watching the NCAA tournament and stuff, those coaches are good. Mike Krzyzewski is one of my coaching friends. He's got 5 pros on the floor.
yeah.
Lou Olson, who Hughes played for, we're playing Arizona one night at Washington State, and they got Luke Walton, they got Gilbert Arenas, Richard Jefferson, Mike Davis, and Ron Woods. They got 5 pros on the floor. So that makes a big difference, you know. So what I'm saying is, Coach Fluke, the job kind of fell in his lap. He'd only been at Sumner, what, a year, guys, a year, and Coach Ellison left, and he gets the job, and boy, shit, you know, the rest is history. So, you know, like Ruth said, you got to have organization, you got to have a system, something that you believe in, how you want to play. But boy, I tell you what, you better have some thoroughbreds on that floor. But have some horses that can get it done. And in '69, we had them.
Yeah. Hey, I want to expand the discussion about coaching just a little bit. You know, that we've been focusing on what they did for the teams, but what they did, the coaches that we experienced coming up through Northeast and Sumner, what they did for us as individuals and as developing young men.
Right.
We had some awesome individuals who really had major impacts on our lives that extend well beyond the basketball court. And so I want to reiterate the comments about the Ellison brothers. They were extremely impactful, not just on the court, but they wanted you to be a person. They cared about you as a person. Chester Pittman, the track coach.
Doc Pittman was one of the best.
One of the best guys you'll ever meet in your life. And, you know, so it's the thing, you know, they don't let you get away with stuff. They hold you accountable. I remember one day I skipped school and I came back in time for track practice. And I was waiting outside the field to go to track practice. And Pittman comes out of the school and sees me and a couple other people. I'll let them speak for themselves. And so he gave me the choice. He said, I can send you home to your mama or you can get this board.
Yeah, right.
I chose the board.
Right.
So, I mean, he would hold you accountable, but he was supporting you.
Yeah.
And Coach Ellison, he would invite us to his South Butch into his home, and he talked to us about things that he talked to us about how to build credit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in junior high school, and he's talking to me about how to build credit.
Right.
So the coaches were awesome, and they had a major impact on our lives well beyond the basketball court.
And Brian, like you said, well beyond. One of the most gratifying things for me and throughout my career is when I heard and got phone calls or letters from like Doc Pittman. When I got Doc Pittman was the first black football player at Oklahoma State. He was a wrestler.
Yes, he was.
And when I coached at Oklahoma State, it was great to have Doc, you know, come to those games, or he'd call you, or Mr. Van Treese and Mr. Beasley, and guys that Mr. Hall, Coach Hall, and then his brother who went down to Douglas State Bank. You know, to have those men call me, or send me a letter, or send me a note saying how proud they were of me, of all people. I wasn't, you know, I mean, those guys. You talking about Doc Pittman? He told me, Brian, one day, if you keep hitting them hurdles, I'm gonna put that board on you. And you know what? I quit hitting them. You know, and he said, if you hit not one of those hurdles over again, I got something for you. You know, or if you needed lunch money, or if they would feed you. They built a relationship with you. Even Mr. Rome before he left, because all of us coming from Northeast to Sumner wanted to play for Tom Rome. I mean, he was guy because he wore alligator shoes and sandal belt pants. He was that well dressed on the sideline, and because Kenny and Mo and everybody else played for him, they all played for. So we wanted to play for Mr. Rome. And Mr. Redden and the teachers at Northeast, Mr. Walker and Mr. Lyons and how they, Mr. Woody, all those people, and back then, uh, they put that board on. You can't do that now in the public school system. You can't even yell at a kid. So the kids going to school nowadays couldn't go to school back in the 50s and 60s like we did.
They couldn't go to school with us
No,
and survive
no.
and survive. No, I agree with you. They could not, because there was one name that you have named before, but you didn't, and that's Jim Thatcher.
Yes, right.
So
Mr. Thatcher. Yeah.
he couldn't bounce a basketball at his age, but he could sure be supportive of you.
And he could
But
talk about you too.
he could talk about you too. But that's support, because he's talking about you so you can get yourself together, so you can be who you are. So I'm kind of going over. I just want to remind our audience, if you have any questions, please put some in the chat. We're just sitting here chatting. And then again, want to thank Kamisha Tyner, who is allowing us to broadcast on her on Dignified TV. And you have to do your station identification at the beginning of the hour. So that was my station identification. I have one. I'm trying to think of which one of these questions that I sent to you. Here is my question. Everything wasn't always the best, even though you all were that team with that Christian foundation. I can do all things through Christ. I think that's what I'm seeing on Carl's shirt. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And what you all told me was that you never, ever, ever thought you would lose, because that word didn't exist, that you were always going to win. But sometimes the game didn't go well. Who was your go-to person? Where did you go when it did not go the way you thought it should?
There's no question about that. I mean,
No question.
There's
There's only one guy.
The big fella. When things got tough, and we knew that it was crunch time, we know where the bread was buttered. We'd take it inside. And then, as Kuhn mentioned earlier, sometimes I had to go up to Hughes, and I was about 6'1", and he's big, about 6'8", and I had to grab him by the shirt and say, "Big fella, it's time to go to work."
Time to go to work, man.
Yeah, and he would go to work.
Well, what he would do, guys, y'all know Hughie would kind of get, he would pout, he would pout because he had 4 other guys out there that were just going to shoot jump shots, So if he didn't touch it, he wouldn't say nothing. He would just pout, and we'd have to say, "Man, what's wrong with you, man?" But he would, "I'm fine. He wouldn't say nothing. And so when the game got tight, we'd look around and say, "Hey, man, come on, man," And then he always would respond, but he would never say nothing. Every now and then he'd run down the floor, Brian. He'd thump you in the back of the head. Say, "Man, I'm wide open, And me and Zach would always say, "Man, I see you, man. I see you, man. Go get it off the glass, man. You the biggest thing on the floor, man. Go rebound." But we always knew, Jerry, to that cool. We always knew when it was time at crunch time. We go to the, and he always answered the door. He was always home. He was right there.
Okay. And I think that's so important that you all had that background. And I'm going to leave that right there, because I said something about that on Sunday, about the background that our children don't have that we had. And okay, I didn't say that. Highest scores, high scores, high rebounds. Anybody got any? Besides Carl's 32 points for one game, anybody else have any of those stories?
Hey, Hughie led in every category. I mean, score, rebound, score. He led in every category.
It's just like we said. I mean, we all had roles. It wasn't my job to go out and score points. Mine was it's kind of like the floor general, to make sure that the things were balanced, to start the play. We all had roles there to play. So for me, if I scored 10, 12 points, well, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was all about what I did to contribute to the win.
That's
All
right.
right.
That's what mattered.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Rudy. Contribute to the win because the 1969 basketball season, there was not a single game when I was in double figures scoring, not one.
But you
Uh,
had impact,
I
right?
played most games,
Right.
and I knew what I needed to do when I got in the game. And so scoring, points and everything, that wasn't me.
Yeah,
But you
right,
want to lock somebody down on defense, you want somebody to hit the boards. That was my role.
right, right, right.
And I think Nate Smith probably contributed a lot to the rebounds.
Oh
Yeah.
Because
my
Oh
goodness.
yeah,
Yeah.
he,
Nate was
that
awesome.
was a combination. Hard to get a rebound over them two. Offense
Yeah,
and
over
defense.
Hugh, yeah, over Hughie and Nate, man. Them dudes just
Yeah,
And what's Nate's height? What was his height?
six
what,
three maybe.
Yeah,
three,
about
6'3".
6'3".
two,
Yeah.
6'3".
Yeah, it's about
Okay,
six
because I kind
three.
of remember him as being tall
Yeah,
also.
But see,
He could jump
Nate
over the
had
moon.
Nate had long arms and he could jump.
he
He
could
could
jump.
jump over the
Yeah.
moon.
He couldn't
Okay.
run worth nothing, but he could jump.
Who said
Very with him
that?
in baseball and everything else. I tell him, yeah. But Nate could jump, he could shoot, he could do everything.
Okay.
But
Okay.
between him and Yuju, it was tough getting the rebound out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the day, and I tell the story that we were at a happy hour for Sumner. Paul happened to be there. Johnny Ingram happened to be there. And Granville O'Neill was also on the call. None of you all were. But the question, we do question and answers, trying to get the history out. And we asked the question, what year was the National Negro Basketball where they won? I'm not asking the question right, but that was sort of the question. And the answer was 1942, but three people said 1969. And thus starts the groundswell of the story of the undefeated. It came from that.
Yes.
What about us? In 1969, we were undefeated. Anybody else
Yeah.
undefeated? Well, no one else was undefeated.
I think the
So
42 team lost 2 games, 2 or 3 games.
who did?
The 1942 team, I think they lost 2 or 3 games.
Okay, but they went to the National
They went to
Negro
the National Negro, right.
and won
Yeah.
a basketball game, and they won. But that was the difference. You all went to the highest you could go, and you won. And it's so very important, I believe, now that I know this, that this story continues to be told. As long as you all are alive, we should be telling this story because it's a Sumner story, it's a basketball story, it's a team story, it's a friendship story. I haven't heard any of you all say, well, you know what, deep down inside, we didn't get along. That's not what I've heard. I've heard we were friends. I've heard I know how he moved. I knew what he would do. And so I knew what I needed to do to get him to do what he got to do so that we could win. That's what I've heard. And that's an awesome team concept. I'm studying Kobe now. I'm a little late, and he's a little gone, but I'm kind of looking at him and his mantra, what he thought. And one of the things he said was there was no who said there was no I in team, but he said there was a ME in team, which was him.
There's an I in win.
And there's an I in winning and a E and an ME in team, which he was going to continue to do, and what he was going to do. But I have not heard that about you all. You all did jail. So if there was something you wanted me to know about you all during this wonderful 1969 year, what would it be? Lee, I told you you got to work on my questions. I'm not going to read them. So if there was something about 1969 that you wanted somebody to know, I'm going to say, Carlberry, I need for you to say that because that wasn't the year you graduated. So, what would you like? What's your takeaway about 1969?
Well, it's about Sumner, and it's about the basketball program. Even there was a culture of love. We always had the attitude. I may not like you, but we was like the dinosaur. But you gotta love me, and that was the way it was. A lot of times, I remember they would argue about somebody shooting too much.
That
And
was every
when it
day.
was over with, though, they always would sit up there. Oh, that's all right, man. You go ahead and shoot it. We'd make up. We'd kiss and make up. We had this camaraderie. That's the thing. Even when you talked about the Ellison brothers, I remember in the 8th grade at Northeast Junior, Butch Ellison changed everybody's shot.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody got their shot altered because Nolan was at KU and he was bringing the technology they learned, like Rudy talked about the sophistication of the game. And we all came in and we started doing it the right way. I still remember Coon had the prettiest jump shot of anybody. Probably had a lower average than some, but he just looked good when he got up in the air and kicked them feet together and they kick out. I still remember seeing him pump that shot from the corner. And it's just we had a love and respect for each other. Like with the story you told about Liefeld, they would actually, you might not even be the best person, but if they thought you had potential, sometimes people like Monty Owens would put you on his team. Come here, boy, you're gonna have to. We're gonna work with you tonight. And that was part of it. And so that's, to me, is what you're asking, Jerry. I just saw that. In fact, it's not about black. I want to say this: it's not about being black. It's about Sumner. Because I remember when we played Lincoln and we played Central and we played Southeast, we always had the attitude that we didn't have to beat them, just beat them. We had to beat them good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had to have a deal. And I remember I had a girlfriend, I thought she loved me. And the girl took me shopping the day we was playing Central, trying to wear me out so they could beat us. And that's the thing. Sumner was a entity. It was much more than just a school. It was much more than just a bunch of black kids, because we had a unity. I can remember getting run out of Missouri playing at Central and playing at the gym at Lincoln. They'd run us out of there because they just didn't like us because we beat them so bad.
Yeah.
And we beat them because we had that technological input that came from people like the Ellison brothers. And the one thing I remember most that Butch told us about his brother, he said when Nolan went to the Dunbar, people would stop cussing. Because they respected him.
Yeah.
It was well known that he had a love for the Lord and he lived a wholesome lifestyle. And that was part of the atmosphere of Dunbar. And that's what I was telling Liefeld and Jerry Houston. That was part of the atmosphere we had in 1969. There was some character involved in treating each other with love and respect.
Okay.
I'm going to go on one thing that I think will always be on the team's mind is that we never played the 5A championship. And that Wyandotte win, which was more probable than any time in Sumner's history, never got the opportunity. And I want to bring out one thing about the 1969. I think that's one thing that's going to kind of stick in your craw for a long, long time.
Okay. So I did get a question in the chat. there's a statement from Mike Hobson, and he says, "Honored to see you all and hear your story. Congratulations!" And Mike is a 19, and he says, "Join the Alumni Association." He's a 1981 graduate of Sumner Academy, but he's also the president of the Alumni Association. You will not meet a better guy. And he just said that, but that wasn't the question. The question came, and it says, let's see, can you ask the team if there were any issues with racism at that time that you all probably experienced? And Paul went away, and that was from his baby sister.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd like to address that too. And I think Don Young, Donnie Boy, affectionately known as Donnie Boy, addressed it during one of the previous recordings.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it was about racism during that period of time. I'm not even sure at that point that we even knew what it was, because our circle was all black in what we interacted with. By playing the Shawnee Mission schools, we began to realize when we went to their gym and you saw their locker rooms and their showers there. Oh wow, man, it's a little different here. The schools was much. Their buses were air conditioned, and we rolled up in our yellow buses there. But at the end of the day, when we left, we won. From that standpoint. So as I look back at it, because of the environment that I was raised in, that we were all raised in, and at that time, racism wasn't as prevalent as it is now, and particularly within that community. That's not to say it didn't exist during that time. It's just that I personally, I don't think that we experienced it during that time, because we know what was going on in the South, Mississippi, and Alabama during that same period of time. But it never hit us directly there. My take on it.
As I
Rufus, like you said, that it was the community that we were in was predominantly, it was all black.
Yeah.
Those who attended on the north end of town, the northeast area of Kansas City, Kansas. However, we moved because we initially lived on Washington Boulevard when Leonard
Right.
went to Douglas. We moved to Lafayette. They went to Dunbar. We
Right.
moved to Parkwood. We were one of the only black families in the neighborhood. Very
Right.
few black families in the
Right.
neighborhood. And that's when Leonard went to Northwest. You guys went to Northeast. I won't tell the whole story. People will have to watch the documentary for that. But yes, racism was alive and well at Northwest because Leonard was stripped of all his records his ninth grade year. He's now nowhere to be found in the yearbook his ninth grade year. And it was due to a racist act. And one of the reasons why my mother petitioned for him to go to Sumner High School. They weren't going to allow him to do it, but as you very well know, he was there because my mother and father were ones who abided by rules and regulations, but they're not going to allow you to mistreat any of their children, and they stood for what was right. But of course, we'll talk about, you'll see more about that when the documentary is released.
We had what I call pushback racism. And what I mean by that, when they brought that air-conditioned bus to the football game and they beat us, they had to call the tow truck because the bus would be on the side. And I'm saying that to joke, but I also remember a day the football team, one of the referees called a coach a boy. And two of the members of the team beat that referee up. We did not know the depth and the power of racism because we had so much pride. And so we tended not to allow people to push us around. we pushed back.
Yeah.
And we didn't know, I didn't know till I left Sumner that I was black. I just felt like I was who I was.
Right,
I
right,
grew
right.
up with the ability to draw from. I drawed from Malcolm just like I drawed from Martin. You
Yeah.
know, there was a little bit about content of character, and there was a little bit about white devils. Because we could see, but we were balanced. And the balance came because of that love I referred to earlier. We knew enough to respect people for being human beings. But if they did act ugly, we'd act ugly, and we wouldn't be scared of what you do to us
Right,
because of
right.
it.
Okay. So Paul, just so you know, he said he's experiencing weather, and so it was getting bad. So he lost out. So just so you know, we'll be praying for him because weather can mean a lot of things. We're having a lot of early seasons right here in Kansas City. We've had more rain than we've had in a while, and we're looking forward to 6 days of rain next week. Okay, so any closing thoughts or remarks before as we end this? Um,
You know,
Anybody?
I'm going to step out here,
Yes, sorry.
and we talked about the basketball team. We talked about our whole story, and Jerry, and appreciate what you guys are doing. To put it out there. But as I reflect back, and you guys help me out here, I think that anybody know Preston Holmes?
Yes,
Remember,
yes,
you know what Preston Holmes is?
yes,
You know what Preston Holmes does?
yes,
Yeah, yeah. Preston Holmes is a movie producer.
yes,
What a story! Those the I can see Preston going back in, and we've got a couple of other Sumner graduates that are in the movie profession there that have graduated and influential there in Hollywood and putting stories together. And I'm sure that with a little nudging there, not that I want to be one of the stars in the movie, but the story itself, you
gets
know,
told.
those what movies are made of. Just think about it. I just put that out there.
I appreciate that. That's what we're doing. We're putting Sumner on the map again. It's never been off, but we're bringing attention to it so that we can say to Preston Holmes, "Look at all this." That's kind of why we're doing the Spartan Awards, and I will encourage you that can hear me to make sure that you nominate someone that has excelled, and you can nominate yourself. No, there's no shame in that. Nobody can tell the story better than you. Here's the reason: because if we get enough people that apply for any of those areas, then we can start building that story that we're going to get Preston to tell. Okay, there's method in this madness.
Right, right.
So I'm not the one that's ending this. I'll end it, but anyone else have anything else to say? Oh, you all are shy now. Come on,
Well,
come
not
on.
shy. Again, I'd like to end it by basically saying, from me, that again, I appreciate the efforts that you guys have put into, bringing this forward. I don't think without the your guys' efforts and what you're doing that we would be where we are today. So, uh, thank you for doing what you're doing and all that you're going to do.
And
Okay.
I second that. Really appreciate what you're doing. This has made me to want to keep in touch more
Yeah,
with some of the folks.
yeah,
Uh, I think Kuhn started this because he said, our days, we're all getting older, and we may not have another opportunity to see each other. So I'm going to try to at least be in touch with the folks, maybe once or twice a month. Now that I've got phone numbers and emails and stuff like that. So that's what this has done for me.
And here comes Jerry Houston. Um, okay. Brian, you have any thoughts for this
Well, just to echo what's been said about being very appreciative of the effort that you and others put into causing us to get together and discuss our stories. And the thing that I feel as a result of this is just a sense of pride, a kind of a sense of longing for some of the things that we experienced as we were growing up. And as we said at the very beginning, that we had no idea when we were 16, 17, 18 years old what we had,
Yeah.
the benefits we were receiving, and the impact it would have on our lives. And I'm so grateful for that, and just appreciate this opportunity to participate in the dialogue.
I
And
want to
on
add to that.
behalf of, oh no, go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead,
just going
Carl.
to add real quickly that I appreciate the effort and the opportunity that you guide us, and the fact that it led me to a recognition of the uh, I am who I am because of all of y'all.
Look
Right,
at
We
you.
poured into each other.
right.
And I didn't even recognize that until you did this. So this allowed me to go back and reevaluate that 16, 17, and 18 that Brian talked about and looked at. Oh, yeah, I am like that. I had some self integrity because such and such did this. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's important.
Jerry, thank you. And the subscriber owner of Dignified TV for taking the time to do this, and to all of Leonard's teammates on behalf of our family. We thank each and every one of you. Like I said, Leonard talked about it more as we became adults and what have you, but he loved his Sumner teammates. He loved Sumner High School, um, and how it helped to develop him. You guys really have no idea. But trust me, he truly loved his teammates and understood the value of being on the team with each of you, and the relationships that he built with you, on and off the court. So, on behalf of our family, thank you for allowing us to be a part of it, in the absence of Leonard. We miss him, Kenny, dearly, along with our parents. Um, but you guys gave us, some excitement, to watch as well as we were growing up.
All righty.
Thank you, Lynn, for your participation. That
Absolutely.
that has meant a lot to
Absolutely.
me.
You
I
are
really
a
appreciate
gem.
that. Yeah.
You are
You're
a gem.
very welcome. Thank you.
Um, I have people who watch me and make sure I do the things I need to do. So I have some housekeeping to do, but I want to end this part and then I'll do that other real quickly with this story. I think I've told you, but in case I didn't, Kamisha Tyner graduated from Sumner Academy, and she was our videographer for our 40th class reunion from Sumner, and she stood in the corner and she videoed it, but she was so impressed with the stories and what we were up to that we said in the banquet, because she was only at our banquet. And she said, in a phone call, she called me and she says, I just want to talk to you. Can you meet me at the Johnson County Library? Sure. We were there 6 hours, but we were talking about Sumner High School and who could tell the story. And that's how the best kept secret came about. So, this is still the best kept secret, but we're trying to tell that secret in bites, just in bites. Remember that the next one is going to be about music. So, Carl, you'll see me again. Anybody, Jerry, it's really good to see you. Anybody else that it comes to mind to you that perhaps maybe I should contact as we go to the music one, let me know. Okay, so Yvette, I was getting there. Um, October the 28th through the 30th is going to be the Sumner Convention. Friday, we're going to do a meet and greet. Groovy Grant is going to have a mobile history story, and he will be featured in a workshop, a meet and greet on Friday night. On Saturday, we are going to Sumner again, and we're also going to have a um, all all Sumner meeting. Then we're going to go to Sumner if you would like, and then the banquet where we're going to honor the Sumnerites that have submitted their paperwork. I keep saying I've heard great stories here tonight. And then on Sunday, we are going to go to First Baptist Church of Quindaro. The location is going to be at the Embassy Suites on the plaza. And so if you don't have that information and you need it, I'm going to go very slowly and say, email me, let me know at GAJETTES at kc.rr.com. And so it kind of says gadgets at kc.rr.com. And it's now in the chat that they can see in case they need information regarding the convention. Gentlemen and my dear sweet lady, I thank you once again for allowing me to come into your homes. I've been there a few times pulling this together, and I appreciate your time that you let me call you and talk to you, pick your brains, and whatever else I did during that time. I've got a few new friends, rekindled friendships, and it has been my pleasure. You just don't know. It has certainly been my pleasure to be able to be a part of telling this part of the story. Look forward to the documentary. It is coming. It will feature most of the basketball team. And we did it at Sumner Academy, but in the old gym. So it's yet to come. It's being developed as we speak. It's been filmed, and now we're going to get that documentary in the next few weeks, and we'll watch that. And that'll be part two to this. Again, I thank Dignified TV, Kamisha Tyner, owner, producer, and all that jazz. She is just all that. And then I thank my dear, sweet, beloved husband who is the engineer for tonight. Um, I thank you. I'm 2 minutes ahead of time. If anybody wants to say anything else, you got 2 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody.
All
Bye,
right, guys,
everyone.
be safe.
Yeah,
Be
right.
safe.
Be
Bye-bye.
Watch
good.
those.
Judy, I'll
Watch.
give you a call.
Okay, looking
All
forward
right,
to it.
I'll
Got
check you
All
out.
right.
All right, Karen. All right, see y'all later.
Goodbye. Bye bye. Bye, cousin. Thank you. How do I leave this? Oh.